り返し寝ても覚めてもやまない、そっけない君の笑顔が恋しくて星に願うの、また会えるよね。
Hello all, and welcome back to the Four Nations. We've seen a lot of League of Legends in the UK in the last 48 hours. Congratulations, T1, especially Faker, on a historic victory here in the United Kingdom. Did you guys manage to go? Like, what were your impressions on finals?
I didn't manage to go, no. But I was watching it avidly on Discord. I'm a BLG fan, so
Ooh,
game
so was
five.
the guy in the seat next to
Game
me was not
five.
having a good time.
Yeah, that was rough to watch. But honestly, it was very entertaining, nonetheless.
Evie?
It did its job really as a finals.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a HLE diehard, so we had a miserable time. My miserable time happened a couple weeks ago. I like a bit of LPL. I'm an NIP fan personally. Big up Shanji. So I was kind of rooting for BLG, but at the same time, you can't be mad about seeing the GOAT clutch up when it matters. So games. People talk about League of Legends being dead. To my eye test, it looks bigger than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. It looks fantastic, and Korean League has been my favorite for such a long time, and to be there in the audience was slightly fantastic. Maybe we'll book at the O2 someday. We'll just
I don't see
manage.
why not. The games are similar quality.
We're more or less up there, and especially what we're about to see before us today. I can see them putting on a similar caliber of League of Legends on stage.
Oh, for sure. We'll coerce the O2 Arena into it. We'll make it happen. Today, the lower bracket of our playoffs run. We've had our cross groups. We've had the first stage of the upper bracket, and that is how Paragon have ended up here versus the Nuclear Vikings for their first meeting this playoffs. We're going to set the scene. The Nuclear Vikings. We've spoken a little bit in the backstage, and we've had a pretty long impression of the split. Winning their group, looking pretty decent. Rory, your impressions on the team. What does this team look like?
So, what Nuclear Vikings try and do is whack fruity carrots on a utility or a supporting based jungler often, and then try and force that play style down the opponent's throats. And if it doesn't work out, it's an absolute tragedy. But if it does work out, it's close, but they win. So that's the important thing.
Okay.
Their bot lane is a little flippy. Brody and Not Sandwich do seem to have a feast or famine style mentality where things can go very wrong in the early levels and then they never kind of catch up.
Mm-hmm.
But you got Shush, who's really solid on the top side, especially if Aurora's open. Like he's not dying. And then I think Eden overall is a pretty solid mid laner, and it'll be really interesting to see how he plays into Tim and Topra.
Evie, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, the thing we found with Nuclear Vikings, of course, I think it was 6-2, their scoreline in the initial group stage, and we spoke at some length about the fact that it did not feel like that scoreline was necessarily representative of how some of those games were going. But you could also, of course, argue that with the way that they're playing these utility-style junglers, maybe they're just really good at handshaking early games and playing for the team fight, because their team fights, for the most part, have been close to immaculate.
Yeah, I think I'd kind of take that like late game team fighting comfort zone for both of these teams. So it's a great way to introduce the Nuclear Vikings roster. Rory, if you will.
Yes, I think I glossed over it very easily, but yeah. So Shush, really solid top lane. Really happy with that. Goes towards the Aurora, but Aurora's broken currently in top lane anyway, so it's no surprise there. But also on a variety of picks, very flexible. Then we see Fruity Carrots in the jungle. I'm saying not as an insult, but no. Let me don't. Okay, not as an insult, but to get Fruity Carrots ahead, the rest of the team has to enable him, basically.
Yeah, he's
a very team-reliant jungler.
He's all over the place. He's in
yeah.
there. He's making it work. He's making the dream happen. That's my favorite way to jungle. Evie, a little bit more about PRG. Is it still just the Timmer and the Topper knitting this group together with some huge late game team fighting ultimates? Is the Aurelian Soul still the name of the game?
Yeah, so I mean, when we've looked over the course of a split, we have seen majority of the time it has been, when we look at the mid lane tier list, Timmer at the topper, and he has been a real driving force behind the early game that a lot of Paragon games have tended to favour them in. When we look towards Kenji, I think there've been some ups and downs during the split, certainly. We've seen some really off performances where it feels like Paragon's topsiders not live or die by him necessarily, but he is a bit of an engine. And when we're talking about a game state where grubs are of such high importance, if your top lane is not able to hold the line in that matchup, then the game can fall apart really quickly. Lasp and Sack are not an afterthought as such, but certainly tend to lean towards more of these, not utility, but more pokey AD carries, less of a hyper carry style out there. So they are certainly leaning towards Timmer as a primary carry. Of course, we've seen a few substitutions having to be made for Paragon, but for the most part, they've made it work. And moving back to this core roster today, I expect to see, at the very least, a lot of punishment of Nuclear Vikings is typically a little bit shakier early game.
Fair enough. Rory, anything you'd like to add?
I will say, Paragon, we'll talk more about in Charm Select about how some of their drafts go very wonky, but they have a style of just getting a good pick and then completely over fighting, and then that's kind of how their team fights work. Is it's really even, and then one of them will go, "I'm going in, immediately run it, dead on arrival." Like, it's so rough. We also
What I'm hearing is the execution really matters.
Arcane shifting into a Caitlyn trap twice.
So to move us on
the last
our
broadcast.
predictions for tonight. Okay.
Oh,
2-0.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Rory, you think the execution is going to be a little one-sided?
I just don't think Paragon have good positioning when it comes to objective setups. They're really all over the place. They've got like a weird 3 and then 2 others flanking unit that they seem to go with. And what generally happens is the 3 people approaching in that unit just get deathballed and immediately die. Then the other 2 are late
so
to the party.
it's too complicated.
can't.
The pincer
Yeah.
movement ain't gonna happen.
It's
Now-
not working out for them, and it's kind of stuck with them throughout this tournament.
Okay, Evie, a little bit closer maybe.
Yeah, so I think Paragon have big upsides to their play. And I think they have, of course, we were talking about Timmer at some length, and the fact that for the most part has been a real standout, not just in the team, but in the league. So I think they can find a game. That said, I think Nuclear Vikings in general, stylistically, actually match up really well here. It might go a little bit against the vibes of the broader audience, but I feel like the fact that they do tend to turn it on in team fights later on, whereas that's when Paragon start to make more of their mistakes. And the fact that across the course of a UKEL, there have been some issues with closing out games from time to time. It does favour Nuclear Vikings in those later game states.
Okay, so in the 4 nations so far, Nuclear Vikings just a little bit ahead. I'm kind of on the same vibe. I think it could go either way. It's not the strongest prediction in the world. However, both these teams do like to sort of sit in that same groove for me of a little bit later on. We're not rushing. We're not inviting our opponents to run into any issues. We're going to be getting into draft really soon. Oh, that's soon. Awesome. Let's go.
Very soon, in fact. I mean, I'm not expecting anything super spicy here, aside from you kind of assume that the Ivern ban will come out from Paragon here. Aurora taken off the table. This is something that both top laners have shown proficiency on more than the mid laners. And whilst it's a good pick for Shush, they really don't want to give that over on the B1 to Kenji. But I guess the Ivern maybe being left to last. We've spoken somewhat about Paragon's draft sometimes being wonky. And I tend to feel like if you have super targeted bans like this, you would expect them to come out first. So either not being banned yet, maybe they have a plan.
A ton of respect being put down after Eden or Kranos' Pentakill on Tristana last week. Clear respect being put down here. But yeah, as you said, Ivan is up. final ban coming out from Nuclear Vikings. Probably taking away another good priority pick. Maybe we see the Ashe. That's a very common B1 pick right now. Even the Kaiser in this tournament specifically, but no, Corky, yeah, overpowered as hell actually right now, so not a huge surprise.
I'm not sure it's overpowered, but it's still Team Atopher is just stuck to it, and it has looked pretty good. Ziggs in nice and early, so flexible and wave clear heavy.
If they lock in this Hui, I would expect it to go bot. This is something we've seen at our Brody once already. Hui in general, very good at stonewalling the Ziggs lane, and of course, if you're picking Ziggs, you need 10 plates. The champion falls off a cliff if you do not get his early game value in there, and well, when you're playing a mage that is very good at stonewalling Ziggs, Ziggs is panicking immediately. This is something that Brody has shown some proficiency on, so I'm happy to see it. Oh, we're just drafting worlds, aren't we? 3 patches down the line and nothing has changed.
We're slightly further on. That's the Smolder, sure. Rory, we've got the Ziggs setup. It ain't gonna be the pushing monster in the bot lane. What else do we need, especially looking at that Smolder?
Well, with the Ziggs now locked in, you can be very happy as Paragon to go 4 AD champs and, well, 3 AD in a tank and be like super chill with that. With Yone off the board, I was about to say we might see Yasuo does surprisingly well into both Smolder and Hui. Okay. So maybe we might see a Diana here from SnapX, bringing back the clean combo.
Down to that combo. But I think Gragas as well.
We might see a Sejuani instead.
Yeah, I think Sejuani also. So backline access, the name of the game for Paragon right here in the first phase. Nuclear Vikings, what's the most important thing here for them on the third pick?
You need something that can really brute force open topside early game. Hui, not the worst early game champion, but we've been talking about he's basically just there to stonewall a lane, and then he will outscale, but he takes time. Smolder, we know this to be true, that the champion comes online at around 25 minutes, and prior to that, he's basically just present. So you would like to see a top laner out of Nuclear Vikings that can kind of hard win the matchup, provide some prio, some strong 3v3 team fighting around the scrubs area. So I like the Leona lock-in. Very good with Hui. Fantastic team fight setup right now. That's what Nuclear Vikings tend to lean towards. With getting rid of a Rel as well. They're just trying to remove knockups, engage tools away from Sack at this point. But right now, I like how Nuclear Vikings' team fights are shaping out. But I really need to see some power in top lane.
It's very unusual to ban the Rel away, Rory, when you've got the Leona in. That's a winning lane.
It is a winning lane, but I think Nuclear Vikings are just respecting Sack at this point. Banning the Senna from Paragon. We did see the Ziggs Senna not be the most powerful lane, but I can see the vision here. But banning the Rel, yeah, Sack has just put in some really good performances on it, so I think it's more of a targeted ban. Just let's get them off comfort. As we see the Amumu come through, pairing with a Hui can be a nasty combo.
All right, and I can confirm that blank block below me on the blue 4 ban is actually Nunu and Willump gone. So the Nuclear Vikings losing out on some of those more utility-oriented junglers. Seen a little Amumu recently. He's just poking his head up every now and again. And yeah, feeding into that late game fiesta we're expecting from day one.
Is it a Jarvan pick here and he flex Gragas top?
I'm not opposed to it. I feel like Jarvan is right now, like, so you're very happy with Rakan to play secondary engage. He can play initiator, but he tends to be a bit squishy fulfilling that role, especially into a champion like Amumu that's very good at disrupting Rakan's backline access. So you would like to see a little bit more engage here. That said, Jax being hovered and blind Jax is being locked in. Gragas taken away, of course, already being the primary counter to this champion at the present moment. So I'm curious, right? Because you want a champion that can win this lane pretty hard. You need to neuter Jax in the early game. Other side of Nuclear Vikings right now, they are kind of just playing League of Circles between Amumu ult, Hui ult, Leona ult all together. That's
a semicircle.
Oh.
It's a semicircle. We'll allow it. It does get locked in. So
Boomerang is technically a constant circle. So
I am surprised
in there.
I'm surprised by this. Typically, a lot of top laners, myself included, consider Jax to be a counter to Gnar.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Also, I don't really think it's the early game lane bully that you're looking for into Jax. Do you know, into enemy comp, you know, it's a bit awkward to pilot into Gragas, but I know I would anger LS deeply by saying this, but you need early game power and a champ that's very good at stonewalling and pushing around Jax early game. It's not a bad Renekton game.
I thought you were
No,
about to
that's
say Quinn.
alright,
I
man.
thought you were about to say Quinn. I was like,
Nah,
oh, no.
park it,
Oh,
park
no.
it. No, absolutely not. It's but Gnar is so this comes down to this is a skill matchup, and we've spoken about both of these top laners having some really good games from
Pretty
time to
strong
time.
showing,
Yeah, Kenji maybe a little bit more inconsistent in my eyes, but I think they've both been primary carries some of the time. So I think this matchup in top lane does kind of come down to a hands check. I think it's one to keep an eye on, especially in the early game.
All right, Rory. Little one-sided in top. I'm gonna say I'm probably like on the Renekton hype train. Anytime I see Leona, I'm like another stun, like
Yeah.
Flash W is pretty valuable to add out that total CC time. Is there any other sort of big stick outs here for you from these compositions?
I mean, what I really like is it's going to be super hard for Shush to actually play off of fruity characters and Moonwall, purely because Timo Topro can just say no wind wall, and then you can't use any of your high key abilities. You can't throw out your root. That gets wind walled. You can only go for the lightning bolt, which you know is great damage, but really you want to be doing a lot more AOE than that. So it's a fun comp from Paragon. That's what I will say. It's a fun comp that has a lot of angles they can play with.
Eevee, is it going to be Ziggs or Yasuo bot lane?
Do you know, I was going to bring this up,
Oh.
right? Because so Hui, very good at stonewalling Ziggs, suffers horribly into a Yasuo Rakan game. Like Yasuo Rakan in general, very good at gap closing quickly, and of course Hui can look to chuck out a fear and pray, but
Yep.
I think on paper, right, assuming player competency and like comfort on the champion, you would put the Yasuo bot. However, we see here it is going to be Timur on the Yasuo. I'm not opposed. I think Yasuo very good into Smolder as well. The thing is, right?
The other side of it is you want the Gragas as well, right? You want the Gragas Yasuo engine going, and when it's just the two of them, it's just a little bit more simple.
I'll put it to you this way. Envision Nuclear Vikings' comp in terms of how it functions in a team fight. Sans Windwall. There is no Windwall present. They are flying. They're happy days.
Right.
Now imagine it against a Windwall. And it's a significantly less happy time. There's a lot of things that Yasuo can shut down especially in like a choke engage, where you're having to throw a lot of skill shots through a narrow space. Yasuo is laughing this game. I think it's a really fantastic pickup for the side of Paragon, and I'll be the one to say it. They've had some interesting drafts over time, but I think this one is pretty Paragon favored from draft, even with the Ziggs Hui matchup being more of a handshake.
Rory, do you agree? Is the power in Paragon's hands?
I do agree. I don't think Nuclear Vikings has a lot going for them in the early game. It's going to be super hard for them to contest objectives like the Grubs, like even First Dragon. That's really hard to walk into. Because the Moon is just really squishy early game. So it's going to be very interested. We might see Snepex go for a level 4 invade and then beef it again. And then like the whole and then the whole comp falls on its head. I think I'm quoting the right game here. I'm pretty sure he was invading a Sinzao and just
this is Paragon Snepex, not BLG on. Come on, let's be nice.
Yeah.
So we may see some invades. If they work out, then yeah, I think Paragon are set up for greatness. If they don't, it's gonna be a little funky.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, are we still confident in our predictions right now? Are we still feeling good?
I mean, Rory might be sweating, but we've got a 1-game buffer to play with.
True.
So if this were to go the way of Paragon, no dangers. We've still got 2 more. I do feel like So granted, if this game goes very long, and I mean like 30, 35 minutes long, then we kind of wrap back around and Nuclear Vikings come. It's not like it auto wins, but it's certainly favoured. But I feel like
my conclusion,
yeah,
coming back around is going to be, hey, Smolder versus Jungle Gragas. I know who's not surviving that initial skirmish is Jungle Gragas. He's not doing great.
Yeah, it's I feel like in the early game, if Paragon are allowed to convert their early game, something that they've struggled a little bit with over the course of the split, they're quite good at generating the lead. They've not been great at converting it. If they've figured that out by now, and right, let's look back to their game a couple of days ago. They got 2-0 by Ruddy, but I don't think that scoreline is indicative of how they performed, especially in the early game. It was more Ruddy turning it on later on, where they were able to win. If Paragon can replicate those early games, but convert, this should be a pretty easy game for them based on draft.
All right. I'm feeling the Paragon slight favor as well. It might slip out of their hands. We have mentioned sort of the deep comfort, the resilience in the late game that has flavored both of these teams. And would you believe it, the World Championship? You've all probably just watched this last weekend. If not, spoilers abound. But here we are anyway. We are just waiting for the last few little bits to get ready, and then we'll be over to our casters this evening. You can also find us live on Twitch TV /the UKEL2. We do have the second tonight. Yeah, that is the number 2. Not 2 itself. Absolutely spot on. And we do have
UK
as
well.
No, not UK as well. No, in addition to
you can find us at the UKEL also.
Absolutely. And over there, you can find Venom Crest versus Belfast Storm with Alex. So go and say hi, get it on your second monitor. But otherwise, we're going to kick it over to our casters. Ready, Zathdos. Ready, Drake. Take it away.
Thank you so much for passing that over to us, Temporal. And thank you guys so much for setting this up so well. I mean, it's going to be a good one. Nuclear Vikings versus Paragon. We're finally casting together again. Zapdos, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great, man. Drake, there's something special. We had Worlds weekend, and now we get UKL. I usually make a joke about how both are comparable, but Worlds finals, you got to go. Fantastic time. But of course, today, have a hype matchup. And personally, for me, I was the only person out of everyone to say that Paragon has a chance in this series. I believe that they might be able to take it in this first game. Looking quite likely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were talking about the draft earlier on, and it does look pretty good, I'd say. I mean, obviously, there's a lot hinging on this Yasuo actually doing Yasuo things, and you usually only see that in solo queues, so we are putting a lot of trust here in Timid Topper, if I'm being honest. I don't know how you're feeling about that one.
I completely agree. Yasuo either go 0-10 or 0-10. There might be a possibility in a mythic world that you can go 10-0. Doesn't happen ever in my solo queue games, but I'm absolutely loving how Paragon have drafted themselves. Very much early game focus, can scale quite well unless it gets 30-40 minutes. That's when they will start losing. And we've watched Worlds a bit, and everybody has seemed to be in love with these Void Grubs.
Yeah, and obviously those 27-ish minute games as well, right? It does seem like it's kind of the meta at the moment. Obviously, we are 3 seasons past that, right? So we are no longer in the beautiful realm of Worlds. We are moved on from that. We're moving on from a lot of these seasons, even the regular seasons of a lot of these different tournaments, but UKEL still cooking, and it's going to be a little bit different here. We'll have to see whether that is going to be 27 minutes or 30. I definitely am slightly more partial towards Paragon. I feel like, you know, to contextualize these two teams, Nuclear Vikings has looked stable this entire season. They've looked very strong this entire season, but they just haven't looked like they had that X factor, like they had that oomph to bring them over that final hurdle. And Paragon, I'll be honest, they looked way worse than Nuclear Vikings throughout the regular season. That's like that might be a base take, like that might be me getting a little bit flamey, but
agree with you there, Drake.
They looked rough, you know. And Paragon, obviously, the last time that they played against Ruddy, they looked so strong. So I'm really excited to see what they have to bring. And obviously, loser goes home tonight. So this is as high as the stakes get.
Yeah, really important game on the line for both of these two teams. Like you said before, whoever loses is not going to be his. We will be getting ourselves into game in just a little bit. Venom Crest will get sorted out for you guys in just a second. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in this early game. We get Yasuo mid lane with that Gragas. Level 6 comes around. I'm expecting a bomber in the mid lane.
I mean, it could happen. I would like to see it. Always like a good bomba. But it's difficult as well, right? Like, obviously, Carnos does have the flap, has flash, and as little as it feels like you see people flash the Bomba, it can be flashed. So you really do need to actually be capitalizing on these summoner abilities being down for Nuclear Vikings. And I mean, it all hinges on these first like 5 to 10 minutes and whether you're actually able to put the pressure on earlier on if you want to be able to get those summoners, huh?
Yeah, because of course, Smolder towards the mid lane usually takes about 20 minutes before he gets to that point where he has his stacks so he can try and kill you with them. So a lot of time for Verdant to play with in this early game. And I kind of want to go back a little bit to what we're talking about, how this Nuclear Vikings roster has done super well, has clearly been second best behind Ruddy. But most recently, we haven't seen that it factor from the team, as the way that they've won their games is have an okay early game, don't really do much, get towards late game, have such an incredible team fighting comp that they just win through that.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot relying on that, right? And a lot relying on how they've grown throughout the past few weeks and days, even. So hopefully, we'll be able to see just how strong they've gotten and if they're able to fight back against Paragon in just a few minutes, guys. We're going to go to a slight break as the game is paused and we're having a few technical issues, but we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hello, everyone. Don't be alarmed. I know we're back, so you're probably like, "Oh, the game's canceled, right? Like it's cooked." No, we're gonna be back in a few seconds. But we are still waiting for a couple of the stuff behind the scenes to get sorted out. Snow the Sinner in chat did say that they have been so kind to offer the hotspot to PRG, so we should be back very shortly. Zapdos, are you excited for this one? I mean, obviously it's a bit anticlimactic now. We were so excited, and now we're waiting. How you feeling, man?
I mean, you may have, lowered the stakes, but I'm still super excited. Of course, whoever loses here in the best of 3 does grab the UKL, and I don't know any higher stakes in recent times. Whilst they happen. But yeah, no, we're going to have a little podcast for about 2 minutes or so about both of the teams. And we actually had some really good discussions about how we think Paragon can win this game and, of course, how Nuclear Vikings can. And the big thought I always had was there's Smodel in the mid lane. They also have Wei in the bot lane that scales incredibly, which means that if Paragon don't win this game in the first 30 minutes, let's say, they're going to be in a very rough time to try and win this game at all because of that Smodel stacking.
Which is kind of a key highlight for sure, right? When you're also mentioning, like, obviously this was behind Chem, but we were talking about the fact that Paragon have, like, their weakest point has been obviously like team fighting later on, and when you need to close out a game, you kind of want to get a team fight, especially when you don't have as much siege, when you have a melee mid laner, when you have a melee jungler and top laner, like you really do need a lot more of a convincing team fight win to be able to actually break down those enemy turrets. So I mean, nothing short of a miracle in these team fights if they are even. I don't know what you think Paragon can even do to actually close out one of these games.
Yeah, we do need to talk a little bit about Paragon's team fighting, at least why I think they have been struggling all season long in this, because of the drafts. We talked about a little bit earlier, how their drafts have been a little bit more wacky on the side. We've seen the Ezreal Seraphine bot lane, with like a Corki in the mid lane. Sure, it deals damage, but it's a little hard to execute compared to their team comp now, where yes, Yasuo, very high mechanical skill champion. You still have the Rakan, you still have the Gragas on top of that, who can find those easy engages. And of course, Jackson, the side lane, amazing in towards that Nasa. Paragon in this game have a lot more to work with than they did beforehand.
Definitely do. And we'll have to see whether that pans out for them. Obviously, this is very high skill cap champions as well, right? When you're talking about stuff like Gragas, stuff like Jax, stuff like Yasuo, to say the least, right? These champions look really, really good when piloted by the right players, but it is so hard to reach that upper echelon, that top cap of these champions' skills. And to make that also flourish in a controlled 5v5 environment, they're going to have to play very, very well here in this game. And I mean, Paragon have shown that they can do it. It's just a case of actually replicating that consistently. But if we look at the junglers, where they're pathing, it looks like split focus between these two teams and where they want to be ganking early.
It makes a lot of sense for Nuclear Vikings to be focusing more out the mid and bot side. Yes, they can make a gank happen bot lane with the amount of CC they have, but it's more about full clearing, getting that ultimate is scaling up as fast as possible. While, of course, for Paragon, it's about getting the Yasuo and that Jax with a lead. And the big reason they actually have this bot lane of the Rakan and Ziggs, because they want to try and open up the map a little bit more, with Ziggs finding that lane prio to allow Zac to get on the map with Snepex to look for a play to either towards the mid lane or towards the top side.
And I mean, getting Yasuo ahead would be really good, but Yasuo doing typical Yasuo things, shoving in the wave, and I mean, that does mean that it will bounce back eventually, but Timitopper has to be careful with the wave management, especially early. Akronos not having that burst on the Q to hit the other minions. Will be pretty chill with just last hitting underneath turret, and that could prove fatal for Timitopper. Makes it really easy to gank for Fruity Carrot.
You know, I was thinking about one thing, about Snepex in the jungle, somebody who has been the powerhouse for the Paragon side early. He usually gets a lot of the kills early into the game, and he's been picking the Gragas, and I thought, is he going to be going for...
Timitopper already... sorry, not Timitopper. Snepex already in the top side. Shush. Force flash away, and that's going to be a pretty good advantage for Kenjingwa in this top side.
Yeah, nice little play. Gets to get his Gromp afterwards in towards, of course, that with Scuttle's bot lane. Nice little trades coming along from them. And the big thing is he actually went for the electrocute on the Gragas, going for more of a high damage build. So I'm expecting more AP Gragas than going for the tank variant.
Oh, a lot of aggression in the mid lane. Timitopper getting a good trade down, and Akronos, no mana really to follow up any further. We'll have to go for the reset in the bottom side. Like you said, it has been some pretty heavy trading going down, and I mean, Sac has lost. Yeah, thank you, production. I know I said Kenjingwa earlier on. I know it's Kenji. I realized after the fact. But either way, Yeah, and this bottom side heal has already been used by Sack. So I feel like the sustain is not going to be there as much as it was earlier, but Brody's taking so much damage. Snapx in the mid lane, looking for a Chronos.
Flash.
I mean, it's nearly impossible to get on this dragon. You will get him very low, though, and Timotopper still not use that TP, so will be advantage from.
And the big thing is, you talk about TPs, and Kronos just used that before they went for that play. So now he's already chunked to half HP. Timotopper can push out this wave if he wants to, find the reset themselves, send themselves up perfectly for the dragon in 18 seconds if they want to pivot towards there. And I'm expecting that with Gragas down towards the bot side. As for Paragon, it's so important to find these early game objectives, either the dragons or, of course, those void grubs towards the top side, as they know they will get outscaled the longer the game goes.
And obviously this is your opinion, but, you know, it's an analysis-based opinion, and you've been saying that these grubs are so important, right? You identified it in Worlds, but also it hasn't really been touched since that patch, 3 patches from now, right? Do you feel like grubs should be the focus of both these teams?
It's more important for for Paragon than anyone else. The main reason is because they have the Jax, who's incredible on the side lane counter towards the Gnar, and same to Yasuo. You put them in towards their 1-3-1. You have Gragas surround them, making sure that they feel supported in there, and then after that, just get yourself those
really aggressive play. Timotopper finds the Q, finds the knockup, finds the ult, and a Chronos finds himself in an early grave. It's going to be Paragon with first blood.
What did I say, Drake? I said every single early game kills somehow finds their way on towards the jungle of Snapx, taking that one away of the electrocute. Massive play coming out from Timotopper, and he's looking like the 10-0 Yasuo instead of the 0-10 we usually see.
Which is a terrifying statistic to have to stare down the barrel of, although he didn't get the kill, right? So Snapx is also going to be quite ahead. And I'm just as scared of a Fed Gragas as I am of a Fed Yasuo, so Paragon definitely getting this game off to a good start, getting the grubs picked up for themselves as well, uncontested. It is going to be traded, though, and Nuclear Vikings get that dragon under their belt.
Of course, Nuclear Vikings, if they can get these early game dragons and still save their towers with the great wave clear of the Wait and Smolder, these dragons may give them enough time to scale up, because, of course, you don't really have to fight anything unless it is that third, maybe fourth dragon.
Speaking of the dragon being free, it looks like it's going to be contested. Pretty Carrot forced to flash away and over the wall. And it looks like Paragon will wait. But the dragon getting into range, the forced flash away by Lasp. And maybe it was a little bit too much to handle. Paragon back away, lose a flash, and they don't even get the dragon.
That was really cheeky from Paragon. They wanted to try and go for that play as they knew that they went for the play towards the mid lane, meaning it was a 1v2 in that Dragon Pit. But overextended, Nuclear Vikings find themselves the first fight. Flash now not available for the Ziggs. We'll have to see if level 6 almost available on this bot lane. Leona maybe can find a Solar Flare to kick off a fight and get themselves some more gold.
Pretty Carrot sensing the blood in the water, also moving down. Doesn't have Flash on this Amumu, doesn't have level 6 either. But can definitely look for something on a flashless Ziggs. Very easy to land that bandage toss when the Ziggs cannot move.
You can
doesn't
tell
look like... Yeah, it's maybe a bit for level 6 for the others, but Fruity Carrot's almost level 6.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close play. You can just see how much they want to try and go for a down here. But you say about level 6, not available, won't be able to find more, and Snapx being able to abuse it.
No way, we just get that. Timotopper finds the ult under the turret, the Bomba, to finish him off, and Snapx once again finishing off what Timotopper started. It's going to be 2-0 for Paragon in this early game.
And that is just dirty from the Yasuo. You're able to make that play, be over the wall, and not even tank that tower. And of course, Snapx being able to find that kill is pretty close to first item when he finds that reset. But we have to start talking about this Yasuo being banned away in the second game, as he already has 1,000 gold lead over towards the Smolder. And this is really coming down to that CS difference. He's basically got double the amount of CS.
Yeah, this is a disgusting start for a Yasuo. Obviously, you usually see a Yasuo suffer for having to rush those Zerks and then being quite delayed on that first item build. But, you know, ahead in the race towards that first item against his lane opponent. And
Yasuo
also
just
has the
isn't
Zerks.
suffering.
Yeah, it is just rough.
Really difficult to try and play this game. As down towards the bot side, really a good job by Nuclear Vikings to make sure to keep up this prio. But they haven't really done much with this. The main reason you get prio is to look for a tower dive, pick up these dragons, or allow your support to roam up the map to maybe support mid lane Smolder. to scale up a little bit more. So Paragon in this early game done a good job of soaking up that pressure and most importantly, finding this lead in the early game towards the mid lane that I thought was going to be more difficult than it seems to be for them.
Yeah, this just looks like an absolute masterclass coming out from Timitopper. Obviously, even landing that Q3 earlier on to pop that bone plating and just apply ever slightly more pressure onto a Chronos. Obviously, the wave looks miserable for the Smolder, and Fruity Carrot moving in couldn't even help shove it in. And, I mean, even Kenji's getting involved in this mid lane. Might look for something onto a Chronos. Has the flash, has the E, the stun is there. And Timitopper trying to connect a little bit further. Won't be able to find the Q3 onto a Chronos, but it connects onto Leona, not Sandwich. Not really helping out this mid laner here. And Paragon get another one in the mid lane.
And Flash is down yet again for Chronos, so he has no way to try and escape this. And Jax, we said about how it's a counter towards this Gnar. Can get that prior when he wants to, so he can walk towards this mid lane and try to make a play.
Kenji doesn't have Flash, has the Q, has the minion wave available too, and we'll be able to get out of dodge. Nuclear Vikings just a little bit late to every single play in this early game, and it just looks like Paragon have their number.
Yeah, Void Grub's available in the next 20 seconds or so. We'll have to see if Paragon want to try and go for this. As you can already see, Smolder can't even hit the Yasuo. Needs to try and get as much CS as possible. As I don't even want to look at those stacks, because I don't think we're getting a stack Smolder till 25, maybe even 30 minutes of how this game's going.
Yeah, and ult already used from Smolder means this Rift Scuttles, or sorry, the Grubs are going to be hard to contest. A good charm coming out from Not Sandwich, but Snepex not really able to do much more damage. Able to get out of dodge, though. Has the flash sack there on the run. Yasuo caught in the middle of 4. Jax moving down, though. Lasp showing up. And it looks like it's just going to be a Paragon fight. Fruity Carrot gets knocked up. Gets deleted by Timitopper. Shush on the opposite side gets killed by Kenji. And Snepex takes off the head of Not Sandwich. Nuclear Vikings crumple. Looking for these Grubs.
They use everything on the most fed member, Snepex. He's able to tank it up and turn it around with the help of Sack towards the bot lane. We talked about priority, and that's what they had. Last able to walk up first. Same with Sack, to because of that in the 4 versus 5. Paragon getting themselves the 6 Void Grubs we talk about, and more importantly, getting themselves extra kills, making this gold lead up to 4,000.
And we're only 11.5 minutes in. Like 4,000 gold at this point in the game. 6 Void Grubs.
This is just Worlds. We have Worlds in front of us yet again. Nothing's changed. We talked about it before in our analyst test. That's exactly what's happening. Go for the Void Grubs, get yourself an early game lead, and just carry the game through there.
I mean, at this point, what do Nuclear Vikings have to play through, right? They do have a dragon. They can look for a second one. It is difficult because you pretty much lose every single team fight from this point on because the Yasuo is the one that's ahead, right? He can move towards the mid lane. I mean, move towards the top lane, move towards the bottom lane. Whatever objective that Paragon want to fight for, Yasuo can be on that side of the map. And it's just a wallet diff this early in the game. But looks like Not Sandwich trying to collapse onto Lasp. Sack doing well to keep Fruity Carrot out of the lane for now. Lasp does have flash, will be able to get away for now, but the stun comes through from Not Sandwich. And that Ziggs is just going to find himself in the grave. Throws out the ult, but will not really be able to accomplish anything further. Nuclear Vikings have the man advantage, but will they get the dragon?
So you ask me, what should they do to win? Just do that over and over and over again and find these picks. But it might have to wait. We do have a TP in the back line.
And Snepex looking for the pit, finds a good knockup, finds the Bomba, finds the Amumu. And Fruity Carrot in the grave, Not Sandwich on the run, but gonna get charmed by Sack. And will get taken down. A double kill for Timitopper. And another 2 kills, as well as a dragon going the way of Paragon.
And you're seeing the issue with this Nuclear Viking comp, and the main reason that they have been doing so well and their main kryptonite the whole season is they, no offense, aren't the greatest at early game. They don't draft for it, they get to late game and they win these massive team fights. But once you're 4,500 gold down, you get to this point where there's not really much you can do in any of these team fights. You just have to give things and try to clear these waves as much as possible.
And is Chronos in danger again? Snepex moving in. You can see Not Sandwich here to collapse, though, and it's going to get dodgy. Snepex taking a lot of damage from the turret. Chronos trying to finish him off. The Solar Flare comes out, and Gragas cannot move. Finally, another kill goes the way of Nuclear Vikings, but it is 8-2. I mean, this is a large hill to climb.
Yeah, but they're doing a good job of finding the pick here, finding the pick there, as it just seems like they're just going for too much here.
Is this one you can go for? Brody moving in, but the Smolder gets collapsed on Chronos with the flash away. Sack gets caught by Fruity Carrot, and it might be a couple picks going the way of Nuclear Vikings. Timitopper on the run. This would be a huge shutdown for the side of Nuclear Vikings if they can get it. Fruity Carrot secures the kill. Sack gets out alive. But as you said, Nuclear Vikings showing signs of life here in this mid game.
Look, they made a first mistake by SnapX overstepping towards the mid lane, but then after that, you just wait for everybody to come together and look for these plays, because yes, a gold lead is great early into the game, but it's more important to have that numbers advantage. Nuclear Vikings clearly knowing this, being able to pick themselves up 2 kills.
Listen, the satchel charge was so close, but yeah, we make mechanical errors occasionally. We are humans.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. But no, Nuclear Vikings find themselves back in towards this game. 3,000 gold behind. Do you have, of course, that Rift Herald available if either team wants it? As finally, that mid lane tower is going down. See, it's even making me fumble my words after that play.
Either way, I mean, it's good to see the Nuclear Vikings are still in this game, right? They are 4,000 gold behind. Still. Like, that has not changed. Okay. Kenji trying to change it. Okay. Able to flash away. Fruity Carrot here at the right moment. And has done really well to actually start to mitigate some of this bleeding. Obviously, Timitopper still showing that there is a gash in the side of Nuclear Vikings, getting a little bit more gold for Paragon here. But stemming the bleeding is all that Nuclear Vikings can do. They just need to stall out this game. They need to wait until Kronos and Brody can come online, until Fruity Carrot can have 2 items and be pretty much unkillable on the Samumu. It's just a case of getting to that point in the game, right?
I would agree that Amumu can become unkillable, but when you have a Yasuo this far ahead, I don't think he's ever going to get to a point where he is going to be tanky enough, except for maybe when he is at full build. The big thing you have to say is at least the Kronos has been able to farm up a little bit more, is only down 40 CS now,
only.
compared to how important. I mean, he was 40 CS down at 11 minutes. Now it's 15.
Yeah.
At least it's something.
It's true, it's true. And, I mean, only a 5,000 gold lead for Paragon, right? I mean... Only a tier 2 turret falling in the bottom. Okay, but Rift Herald is getting started up by Nuclear.
Now, the reason you take Rift Herald is to take towers, right? They basically skip the Rift Herald to just get extra gold. Because, of course, those second tier 2 towers on the outer side is 700 gold, 350 apiece. Practically, they get a kill each in this mid 2 versus 2. And they can just come towards the mid lane. Who needs a Rift Herald where you could just take the full base?
Yeah, 6 grubs definitely enables that a little bit. And Sack doing well to make sure that nobody had an entrance to kind of collapse here on the last Tim and Topper. And it just seems like Paragon do have the run of the map. They said, you know what, you are going to waste so much time on that Rift Herald. We will just take at least 2 turrets. Obviously the top tier 1 and the bot tier 2. And half of 1 in the mid lane. I mean, obviously they don't have the siege really on their side. All they have for siege is Ziggs. So utilizing those objectives that Nuclear Vikings choose to fight for is definitely really smart when you're talking about macro game and actually, you know, the target is the base.
One thing I've been thinking a lot about how Nuclear Vikings like to play is they're not a team to make the engage. They're the ones to wait for you to make a mistake and then they capitalize afterwards. And then the question becomes, well, how the team doesn't really make a major mistake? Paragon, in this early game with how the meta has shifted, knows how to play around the Void Grubs and how to start pushing their leads. And it feels like Nuclear Vikings have just accepted this and said, okay, we'll just take a tower, we'll take a dragon as well, and then we'll just try and scale up as much as possible against you. But clearly, with how this meta has been shifting, it really isn't favoring their playstyle.
Yeah, and another tier 2 turret falls. Another one is under threat in that top side as well, so Shush forced to handle that wave. And I mean, it just does seem like a ticking time bomb for Paragon when they want to pull this trigger and, you know, almost blow this game more wide open. Obviously, we are only at 17 minutes. It feels like 25. Feels like it's edging towards 30 because of the map state at the moment. But we're still so early into this game, and Paragon have developed such a commanding lead. Looking for Kronos here. Now it will be Timitopper taking him down once again. Mom gets called, but the wind wall is there to block her from entering the room. And not Sandwich. Can't really do much against the siege in the bottom lane. Tier 3 turret under threat. TP from Timitopper, actually, though, trying to collapse on the top side. It's going to be Kenji fighting in a 1v2 for now. Shush has to run for the hills. Fruity Carrot is not really going to be able to get out of this one alive. Is just trying to buy some time. Shush able to get away alive, but it is going to be Timitopper with the collapse top side. Another kill picked up by Paragon, and even more map domination.
Yeah, Nuclear Vikings, they are just getting around rugged in this game. They're trying to make a play here, trying to make a play there, but it always feels like Paragons are the ones in charge as they get this top lane tower by TP in, but they also are fully covering this bot side, being able to get this dragon with how much of a commanding lead they have in this game. And we have to start thinking about the next game, about how Nuclear Vikings maybe can draft in a way to have them have a little bit more early game agency, as it clearly has not been working in their last couple games. Of course, losing against Belfast Storm in kind of the similar fashion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks to start, calling the game now. I really want to keep huffing the hopium here for Nuclear Vikings, especially if, obviously, I'm unbiased. But if I were a fan of this team, I like, obviously, watching Worlds recently, I'm very reminded of how it feels to watch a game kind of feel over. Is there any hopium for Nuclear Vikings here? We are still at 19 minutes. Is there any way they can get back in?
I mean, you still always have that possibility, and a great show is the Smolder here, still been stacking up slowly, has 126. It's slightly over halfway there, and with 20 minutes to. So hear me out. We get to 40 minutes, and then we'll be okay. I mean,
40 minutes is a tall order, though. I do have to be
Paragon
honest.
lasted 40 minutes against Ruddy. Why can't Nuclear Vikings do that against Paragon?
That's true, and I mean, we're seeing a demonstration of the siege issues that Paragon do have right now, right? And obviously, pre-20 minutes means Baron isn't available just yet. Oh, yeah. you were saying that, but it's hard to break open these tier 3 turrets. Honestly, Ziggs is the only one who can hit the turret if all 5 members of Nuclear Vikings are still alive. But when the Baron's picked up, that's going to change.
Do you even try and contest this? The answer is probably yes, but if you go in there and get killed straight away,
The game's just over.
like, what are we meant to do here? What are they meant to do in this situation? They have to go for a contest. Maybe a miracle play from 3T Cows can get themselves back into it, but it's a tall ask. They
And
can't even get in.
Yeah, one that Pretty Carrot is not going to ask for this time. Just going to walk away. Obviously, they got the vision, but even Akronos not really able to free farm either. This Jax is such a problem in the side. You obviously have to deal with Timatopper at some point. It's going to be hard.
Look at these items, though. We've got 1.5 items on the Smolder, 1.5 items on this wave. We talk about how great their wave clear is. They want 2 items to be able to instantly clear them. It does take them a little bit of the time, especially with Gnar in the top lane as well. And now that they got themselves the Baron buff, it should be pretty easy for Paragon to try and finish off the game. The one question I do have is Yasuo resetting a little bit later than the team does mean that Nuclear Vikings have a little bit more time to get ready for the siege incoming.
But, I mean, when we're looking at this game, right, 21 minutes in, it is a 10,000 gold lead for Paragon, right? Like, it is just a sheer wallet diff anywhere you look. I'm sure if we get a look at the gold right now, even the supports, like, it's going to be recalling, 300 gold ahead.
That's a war
everywhere I look. It's absolutely disgusting. That is nearly double the gold in the mid lane. Like, I mean, at this point, it is just walk it in. Paragon hit the enemy base. They can ignore turrets. They can fight in a essentially 5v6 scenario if you count the turret as an enemy player and win. But obviously, Sack taking a lot of damage off to the side, and maybe Nuclear Vikings can separate these 5 members and find a few picks.
The thing is, if they could find somebody on the side lane, that's a way to hold on for a little bit longer. They have the Leona, they have a Mumu, even a Gnar in Mega Form could try and find these picks. It just feels like every time they're answering what Paragon is doing instead of looking for, I just want them to just go, see if they can find a pick, see if there's a way back in towards this game.
But, I mean, one person you definitely can't pick off is this so I feel like, okay, it's just going to be a very dead Gnar on my screens. Shush is able to, knock Timatopper away and actually get out alive somehow, but has to scamper off to the base. That means that the turrets are pretty darn open for the taking. Ziggs pushing in towards this bottom side as well. Akronos very low. Kenji wanting to get that kill onto Smolder. He will get taken down. Kenji taking a lot of damage from the turret, though. Last constantly hitting it, though. Should be able to take it down eventually. And it's just a case of there's too many holes to plug up. The bleeding has stemmed everywhere I look for Nuclear Viking.
Yeah, there's nowhere they can go, but they're looking.
Zach able to dodge away from that solar flare, not sandwich. Gonna get clipped by that Q3 from Timatopper, and 2 tier 3 turrets fall simultaneously. The third one is surely soon to follow, and inhibitors are exposed. The base is getting knocked upon, and Paragon are looking to finish up this game.
Yeah, they're super close. Got the top lane inhibitor. Only 2 more to go. The question is, do they want to finish off here or wait a little bit longer?
It is a full-on 5v5, and you do have to deal with turrets, but it looks like Paragon can smell blood in the water. A good Bomba comes out, and it's going to be Leona dead at the start of this fight. A good double knock-up, and ultimate comes out from Timatopper. The Amumu able to buy a little bit of time, and Rakan will fall, but Nuclear Vikings only have 3 members remaining, as well as 1 turret to defend their Nexus. The TP comes out from Timatopper to make sure the minions stay alive. The Nexus turret will fall. The last will get taken down, but I think Timatopper is here to clean up the rest. Way gets taken down. Shush gets clipped by a good Q3 flash, and the Nexus falls. Paragon walk away 1-0 up in this best of 3 series.
That's a dominant show if I've ever seen one. Fantastic job to Paragon. And you really have to see where everything went wrong, and it was towards that mid lane. That Smolder being second picked, having the counter against it, Yasuo getting locked in, and paying off amazingly. Even the way that they flex that Gragas to be on their teams, the enemy can't counter the Jax with it, which we saw in the World's Finals. It felt like this Paragon team have done their research, have really learned how to draft, and it's really paying off here.
We'll have to see if, they have planned their draft all the way through, right? I feel like that's the key thing here, is something that Evie did touch on earlier on, Pivotless did touch on earlier. Obviously, this is the best of 3, right? Like, we have 3 games to play. There's a lot of iterations of that first draft that we're going to see pop up. There's a lot of things that might get banned away now, and a lot of ways that this series could absolutely get flipped on its head if different champions do get selected. So I'm definitely excited to see it. Zapdos, do you have any more notes before we pass it over to the analyst desk in a few minutes' time?
The only thing I majorly want to see from this roster is just a little bit more early game focus, because otherwise I'm scared it might be a 2-0 here.
Well, you heard it here first. We'll have to pass it to the analyst desk in just a few minutes' time, guys. We'll be right back with Game 2 in just a few minutes.
Welcome back on explosive game 1 win, Paragon. You've made us all look a little bit silly, doubting you here on the desk. But that's okay, because me and Pivotless, we're still in it. Sorry, Rory. Predictions maybe in the next series for you.
Yeah, it's rough out here in the old Rory B camp.
It's all right. Your immediate
rough out
reaction.
here.
Is it rougher to be you or to be a Nuclear Vikings player right now?
That's a good question. If I was using a big, yeah, if I was a Kronos, it would be the pits. Yeah, of roughness. Yeah.
Evie, we've got our first replay here of an admittedly very quick game. So quickly, let's go have a look at what happened here.
Yeah, so there was little to talk about in terms of flashy team fights in this game. We'd love a flashy team fight on the analyst desk, but this is a really important analytical point to make. So we look here, this initial gank. Akranos is not forced to flash out here, but as you can see, the wave is, as we like to say, in Narnia. It's really hard for Smolder to play this lane at the best of times. It's very easy for Yasuo to gap close through the wave, and Smolder right now is basically begging Fruity Carrots to just enter the lane and crash this wave. Now, granted, in the end, the wave ends up in a position where, yes, it hits the tower. However, Akranos has been stuck in this lane state for a full 2 waves now as a result of this gank, which results in the kill. If we go back slightly through that play, right, just before the Raptors, Amumu has a window to skip the Raptors entirely, walk straight into mid, you crash that wave, and Akranos can dip. You take the recall and you play the crash as it's coming back to you, more or less underneath your tower, and you're reasonably happy. You're not over the moon, you're still down quite a lot of CS, it's still a rough lane to play out, but you're not dead, and you still have your flash. Whereas, because it takes so long for that crash to come through, in the end it's basically just Fruity Carrots fogging in the bush and watching it happen, as opposed to actually influencing the crash itself. It takes, I'd say, a good 15-20 seconds longer than it should, which forces Smolder to stay one more wave, gives Yasuo a wave to play through for the engage, and in the end it's just a well-executed, effectively 1v1, but Gragas arrives at the end to say, yeah, thank you very much, I'll take that. And it snowballs very quickly out of control. It results in a game where
it would have
Smolder
restored
can't
a lot of
play.
agency, right? The Amumu coming in and sort of fixing that for him. Rory, a second replay coming up is sort of a slightly more developed story. Take us through this highlight.
So Yasuo at this point is about 1.2k up. Like, it's insane how much.
It's 7 minutes in the game, by the way.
Oh, never mind. I thought this was a different replay. So Yasuo is about 400 up. As we're seeing him trade really effectively in lane, forcing Akranos back. As we see the max range, Q3. And then many people don't know, Yasuo ult actually immediately takes you, if possible, out of tower range. That's why he's positioned so funkily over the wall. And then, Snapex with a great alley-oop over the top, just banging down Akranos. And I said, there was a possibility of Snapex beefing it in this game if he kept invading. No, actually, he did a great job. Was where he had to be to enable his mid laner, and honestly, that synergy was lovely.
Yeah, someone like Evie, you described that in chat as the forbidden combo. It's not Gragas setting up for Yasuo. It's Yasuo setting up for Gragas. It's the way we do it. It's the way we do it.
UKL's built a bit differently.
Like 0% survival chance. That's the only time I've ever seen it pulled off. So, with that in mind, game 2. Nuclear Vikings have selected the blue side of the map, so we'll be swapping over. We're going to see some big changes in draft, or are we just going to see a different alignment of strategy? Rory, what we got?
I mean, I hope no one in chat had trypophobia, because Nuclear Vikings had so many holes in their comp. It just didn't make really any sense.
Is that ship sinking a bit quickly?
That was a good one.
Thank you. Any psychologist in chat will really love that. So I really think they need to think about their early game, have a solid early solo lane that they can really play to. Because it was great that you were up 40 CS, but the rest of your team were on fire. And you weren't able to put them out. So if you're not putting any jungle pressure up there, where are you putting jungle pressure? Because Fruity Carrots was basically a farm bot and doing a Shyvana impression for most of this game. And it really showed in his lane states.
All right. Evie, along the same lines, or would you approach it differently?
I would expect to see a pretty significant draft difference here. I don't love Smolder Blind at the best of times. I think if you're picking Smolder Blind, you need a jungler that is very good at skirmishing in the early game to facilitate that Smolder. Now, funny thing is, Fruity Carrots plays one of those. We might not think of it in that way, but Ivern is one of the best duelists in the game in the jungle. A lot of just raw damage from auto attacks, and the shields are hilarious in size early game. So Ivern's actually really good at trading in a 2v2 skirmish early on.
He's
very
got
good at
that like
protecting
sort of
that Smolder, but
neutralizing presence as well. It's like, Daisy's
Exactly.
here. Everyone finger guns, but no one fire. No one do anything.
Yeah.
very good at preventing Smolder being punished. So
Yeah.
either, if we want to go down that route again, if we want to lean into heavy scaling, I need to see the Ivern come out instead of early rotating for Leona, which I think there are other supports that fill that niche the same way. Or we just move away from a Smolder completely. Moving over to blue side, you do force a few bans through, so you can force an Aurora ban on the opposite side, you can force a Corki ban, or Paragon can take the Hail Mary approach, leave all the OPs open, and we see Aurora one place, Corki elsewhere, which is my kind of approach to red side. I enjoy seeing games that way. You trade 1 for 2 OPs, so it depends on Paragon's read, but I think Nuclear Vikings' draft changes quite a lot if they move over to blue here.
All right, so we're calling for a blue one with an answer. We'll have to see, as the Corki itself, it's not immortal. It's frustrating to play against in solo queue on current patch, I must admit, and we'll have to see if it's going to be Paragon or Nuclear Vikings' choice as the bans start to come through. The Ziggs, that neutralizing presence, gone. Paragon will not be running back the way.
So one thing I did get to touch on in the last draft, because it went quite quickly, I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen any attempt towards an Elise comp. Because Elise is completely broken right now. Like, she's so insane. After all the fixes, it was like, oh, this champ has some difficulty to play. Nah, it's gone. She's so good. As long as you get 1 kill, like, pre 14 minutes, you're solid.
So the risk and the risk reward is just not there, and it was
honestly,
just reward.
Like, just a heavy AD champion, like a Renekton, just pair that with Elise, you snowball topside. Now, looking at these bans, both Ziggs and Yasuo are gone.
Yeah,
From
Yasuo
Paragon.
route is...
We
interesting.
do have to remember that the top 2 names aren't quite the right way. I'm pretty sure that the player names is correct. We do have the
okay,
Nuclear
right,
Vikings
okay.
on the blue side, so they are
That makes a lot
responding
more
to last
sense.
game.
Right, okay.
Yeah, exclusively responding to last game, actually, by the looks of things. So they're forcing a shake-up in Paragon's draft. Like we mentioned, though, this does actually leave open a lot of VOPs on the patch, so I kind of expect to see Aurora to go here or be B1, because this is heavily contested between the top laners.
That's what's going through Paragon's mind right now. So those top names are the wrong, but the player names the right. The Ivan, the final ban. So Aurora is through. A few other traditionally stronger champions as well. Now Paragon has to think.
I expect to see an Aurora for Skarner trade. I think this is Aurora for Skarner trade for Paragon here, and you're very happy to take that, generally speaking, right? For both sides, in a way, right? If you're Shush, you're on a champion now that has a lot of agency, a lot of carry force. It doesn't have a lot of bad matchups, but Yone open as well. This one, I would expect it to go towards Teemo. I think it has a good matchup into Aurora, but I'd be surprised. But yeah, I think you're happy to pick Yone. You're happy to pick Skarner here with it being open. Of course, Sejuani, also fantastic with the Yone, with that melee mid lane solo pairing. But I think you would rather take Skarner right now, right?
Skarner still open and pretty fantastic jungler. I would very, very much suspect Paragon is going to take it here. I've been enjoying Nocturne with an Aurora pairing. The few games I do have it, the Ash Hovered instead. Okay. Paragon just leaving it open a little bit and trying to go for the engage from the AD carry position. That hyper carry presence could be vulnerable to the Aurora, though. And as we saw at Worlds, vulnerable to Nocturne, one of the few AD carries that's approachable. Rory, if you're the Nuclear Vikings, are you slapping that in, or are we trying to modulate through mid?
I'm just trying to think, because like Skarner Orianna here could be decent. As a combo, the Nunu locked in.
Okay.
Yeah, decent pairing with Aurora, honestly. She can create so much space in the lane that you can get some really good ganks off with Nunu. Very predatory towards an Ashe.
Absolutely.
This early draft, what are you pairing that with in the mid lane?
Yeah.
Because now you're very AP heavy.
I don't want to say the S word for Smolder again, but...
I mean, okay, granted. I like this if it gets locked in. Technically a flex, right? You would expect it to go into mid lane, but Tristana on this patch, somewhat slept on because of just how strong Corki is. But Tristana fills that same two-way flex niche very, very well. Is very good at bullying the Yone in the early game, and granted, Yone can match her on sides later on, but if Yone isn't there on time, Tristana will shred a tower. So
Yeah.
this solves your damage profile issues. And, well, like we were talking about, this is a huge diversion from what Nuclear Vikings were doing in their first draft today. We're getting away from this more farming-oriented early Amumu. Of course, he can force a gank, but he is pretty squishy until he finds his items, whereas Nunu, we're rolling, we're just lane to lane to lane, very few camps in between, and this is a comp where we've moved away from, okay, we're going to sit back and scale, and more towards, we want to do things early. We want to impose ourselves on you instead of just sitting here and allowing whatever you want to happen.
Alright, with that in mind.
If we don't see a Camille ban here, I would be shocked.
Oh.
With the Sejuani locked in, it has a really good time at level 6 into the Aurora. So I think it's actually very good here if you actually invest double bans towards Kenji. Really make him sweat in that top lane.
Yeah, I don't think double ban for support doesn't really do a lot here. Most of their sort of play patterns, I think Aurora manages as soon as she arrives to a fight. It'll still be the rel ban, so a lot of respect thrown Sack's way. We do know he has a pretty deep engage pool though, like as deep as
Plays
Tarek.
Seraphine as well.
This guy will find a way around it, so we'll have to see if Nuclear Vikings just have something with the rel in mind.
I'm curious because the main thing I'm seeing with Paragon right now is, granted, Yone has a little bit of magic damage in that kit, Sejuani has a little bit of magic damage in her kit, but they are very physical damage heavy right now. Of course, you have two ways of resolving that. You can look towards an enchanter or mage support, but my expectation is that whilst Camille is fantastic here, you might start to struggle in terms of damage profile on the whole if you pivot in that manner. So I would anticipate Kenji being given R5 here. I think there are plenty of blindable supports available right now that don't get punished too hard. I mean, Rel's been taken off the table, but Leona, the likes of which still open. Brawn ban is surprising to me.
With those four gone, Zyra looks pretty fantastic to me here.
Okay.
As soon as Aurora opens up, Nunu wants to control the zone, and Zyra says, no, thank you, that belongs to me. Pretty unplayable, in my mind. That said, he's not quite as strong as she was a few patches ago, and Paragon have got something in mind. They've thought real deep about this one, and magic damage AoE does seem to be the theme.
But Kennen gets rolled by Nunu.
Yeah, pretty
Like,
badly.
it's really hard for Kennen
Pretty
to fight
badly.
Nunu gang. I'm blitzing straight past it. It's really hard for Kennen to have an even lane state into both Aurora and Nunu. So the Jhin being picked, bit of pick potential, but I don't love it. Especially into a Sejuani Kennen, that looks miserable.
It sets up relatively nicely, but yeah, it's generally a bit weird into the Ashe. Ashe normally thought of as the pick into Jhin this summer just gone. With that in mind, it's clear the Nuclear Vikings want the setup. They think they've got the damage. They think they have the hammer. Now they need a place to place it. With that in mind, support on the cards. Evie, who's it going to be?
I think he wants a little bit more of a reliable engage tool here. So Alistair makes a lot of sense. Now, it's very, very good at removing Kennen is the most important factor here. You don't necessarily have to use Alistair for the engage here. It's nice to have engage options in support, but Aurora Nunu can do that job. Alistair, extremely good at marking Kennen, playing a different side of a fight and just removing that threat entirely. And I was going to mention this earlier. I think Seraphine Ashe still not necessarily top of a meta, but
It's
more
really
than
good
playable.
for Alistair.
And yeah, Alistair has a horrible time at level 1 to the point where it can make the rest of his lane unplayable, at least until he's allowed to get a back off. But actually getting the crash and getting the back off into Ashe Seraphine is a monumental task. I suppose that the silver lining here is, okay, Sejuani only has the one melee champion to play around, but it's Timo on Yone. So there's a lot of carry potential there, and you're already very happy to play into that mid lane for Paragon. So I don't think there's a shortage of options necessarily here. And whilst we see a pretty wild draft diversion from Nuclear Vikings, please note they've picked their champions in order. Happy gaming. But I still think Paragon have to be very scared of a Nunu, but we've kind of gone all the way the other way here of now Nuclear Vikings have the much better early game, but I wouldn't say that their late game is looking phenomenal.
All right, that sounds like a bit of Paragon favor from you when we add in that flavor of like generally these teams go quite late. They're not in a rush to end it. Rory, are you on the same lines? Is it mostly towards Paragon here? What's your vibe? What's your feeling?
So Nuclear Vikings have a very strong early game. Like Nuno is clearing faster than Sejuani, he's ganking earlier than Sejuani. If Timotopra is not on his game and Kranos can just snowball, this is flipped because immediately your weak late game that you're thinking about completely changed. We've seen how strong a Kranos can be in these fights. You have the Alistair to get rid of Kenji's Kennen. You also have the Buster Shot if things like get really bad. So I think you have enough just stick potential if you can get a strong early game lead.
Okay. So, a little hope for the Nuclear Vikings and maybe all of our predictions in the second best of 3.
If they get 2-0, we're so embarrassed.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's the way it is.
A damning indictment of our analytical skills.
That's all right. That's
I
okay.
think it's an interesting dichotomy here, how we've gone from draft 1 to 2, insofar as Paragon, we've talked about struggling to close out early game leads, and they've proven to us that very, very evidently they can. Now, Nuclear Vikings is a team where we've spoken about, okay, their early game tends to be a little bit shaky, they come online more in team fights, they've drafted themselves into a position where actually they now need to be the early game powerhouse and convert that lead. So both teams have the opportunity to close out a game in much the same way here. It's now Nuclear Vikings' turn, and, well, for them, their season is on the line, so it's all to play for.
No pressure. 2 teams from our top 4, top 2 of each group. Nuclear Vikings, of course, winning theirs out, and Paragon coming. Oh no, Nuclear Vikings came second. There we
Second, but
go. Second each. There we go.
Yeah.
6 and 2 and 4 and 4. I do remember numbers. Happy Monday, everyone. And with that, we have our draft. Now, first Aurora I've seen in a little while in competitive. Pretty excited to see sort of post changes, because of course the Aurora at Worlds, slightly different Aurora to the live patch after some quick changes. Does it make a big difference? Is there something we're not expecting to see here from the Worlds patch to live, Rory?
Into Kennen specifically, you're not expecting Grasp to be the summer choice. You're really expecting like Airy, Comet, maybe even Phase Rush, depending on how you're wanting to play this. So it is different. Like Aurora has less damage than the Worlds patch. Her ult lasts for like a whole second less now compared to the Worlds patch. So there's definitely avenues where she's weaker. The issue is, in this context, Aurora has such a better early push than Kennen. It's nuts. Because if Kennen wants to push, he has to get in the wave and get personal, and Aurora just hits you with the weirding and walks away. And then
just
walks
walk on,
at you.
walk off. Easy as that.
Yeah. She walks away and then immediately follows you up with more move speed, and theirs goes half your HP. Unlucky Kennen.
Unlucky, Kennen. Evie, we've had a big change. I'm looking at the 3.5. Looking at you, Yone. 80 carries in this game. Big 80 carry item changes that the audience might have forgotten about. Is it going to make a big difference to Tristana versus Yone?
Tristana versus Yone, it makes a massive difference between now compared to the Worlds patch. So look at the Worlds patch. Tristana had a reasonably good rush in Kraken Slayer, and an okay rush in some situations with Blade of a Rune King. Into Yone, a lot of the time you go Blade of a Rune King, just match his Bork, match the same spike, but it didn't matter, he just used the item a lot better. Whereas after AD carry itemization changes, Tristana right now has the option to go Collector Rush, which is obscene. With the changes to her E, the explosive charge would have come in since then. That explosive charge now has a monstrous crit scaling on it, right? It's 110% bonus damage at 100% crit chance with the IE damage modifier. Even at 2 items, if you choose to go Collector into IE, which is often favoured by Tristanas that want to get an advantage, she will kill you from 60% with a full stack explosive charge. It's scary. So it changes the matchup a lot. It went from a bit Yone favoured at Worlds to pretty Tristana favoured right now. I'm curious to see how that one plays out.
All right. With that in mind, I suppose the Jin is probably also still collecting, still loves all those stats. Has that setup.
I've seen Hubris Rush.
Oh,
True.
I've seen a bit of hubris in
good.
solo
I like
queue.
a hubris.
Not good. We come to you with news. The Belfast Storm have cleared their first game over the Venom Crest Serpents. That series going on over on the UKEL2 on Twitch. If you want something for your second monitor, analysts, we've set up the game. Everything on the line here. Nuclear Vikings back up against the wall. Elimination. The cost of a loss here. Take it away, Drake and Zapdos, for game 2 of our series.
Thank you so much for passing that over to us, Temporal. And I was freaking out a bit off camera, I'm going to be honest. I hate to bring it away from our game really quickly, but the Belfast Storm game, Matthew is already 2-0, and the minion wave just crashed. I don't know what's going on over there. It's an absolute mayhem. But we're here for Nuclear Vikings versus Paragon. Nuclear Vikings on the blue side, Paragon on the red. Zapdos, how you feeling ahead of this one? I think you're muted. Hold on. Hold on, Zapdos
Yeah,
is
we're
muted.
good. Hello. Hi, everybody. It's good to be back. I was saying how Paragon won the first game in a very dominant fashion. Maybe Nuclear Vikings get themselves back into the game. And I have to say, well done, Nuclear Vikings. I'm loving the draft a little bit more. I'm still a massive Jin hater, but except for that, loving these picks. We get Nunu in the jungle, as we will be seeing priority towards the bot side. And this is actually slightly important for the Paragon side, because what champion do they have bot lane which is completely useless? An Alistar, right? So they're going to try and get priority towards this bot side, maybe split the map if they want to, but most importantly is making sure that Alistar could not play this game because he's not a champion till level 2.
Yeah, and Kronos might actually be the one who's not allowed to play the game. Has to be careful. Hopefully, you would hope didn't start an ability yet and would have had that W if necessary.
Well, I mean, if I'm the jungler Snepex, I'm flash queuing that any day of the week. I don't care. I will waste my flash to just have that opportunity. The only big thing is Alistar is able to walk up a little bit more, but there's plenty of other matchups to talk about. We've got the Tristana versus Yone in the mid lane. Yone favored. Tristana, it does pretty well early game, but later on Yone will be able to win that 1v1. Towards the top side, people said before, Kennen pretty good in towards that Aurora. Of course, later the game goes, Aurora with that ultimate can be very tricky to get turned around the bats. We see the bot lane already the priority. Have a ward down here, making sure that Alistar cannot step up for this wave.
And I like the ward onto Nunu's Raptors as well, so they'll be tracking Fruity Carrot as much as humanly possible, which
Was he level 2
is really
Great Ball?
important. Is really,
That's
really
the thing
important,
I'm
right?
questioning. Because the big thing is, Alistar wants to try and get this wave as fast as possible. Level 2 gank, of course, possible for Nunu, because you can just max that W second. No. Okay, he's not going for it. I was excited. So the ward is going to be useful, knowing exactly where Fruity Carrots is going to be.
Yeah, and that's like one of the key things here for Paragon, right? Like the only benefit from Nunu, as a Nunu player, I can say this. The only benefit from this champion is that he kind of makes his own agency, right? Makes his own like pathing timers. He makes his own gank timers that any other champion just really can't do. And it's off the back of the snowball, right? Off the back of the ability to be seen in the middle of the river and then teleport into your lane and just knock you up no matter what. Like, you just can't get out even if you flash. It's such a strong champion if you don't know where Nunu is. Oh my goodness, Brody.
That is disgusting. They could just tower dive on this wave.
Yeah, they have to be careful for sure. Obviously, Not Sandwich, good position to block the W. Level
Alistair
2
level
just
2.
popped. Potions popped as well. Brody should be okay for now. But we can already see just how oppressive the Seraphine Ash lane is.
Yeah, if they didn't get level 2 there was actually a possibility for that tower dive. The only good thing for Nuclear Vikings is health pot used, half HP for Brody, aren't going to be able to burst him out. And Zach has done a great job of poking them out, but has no mana left, so not really going to be able to do much more. So most likely we'll have a reset towards the spot siders. If they can survive this early game, they should be able to scale up a lot easier on that second or third wave, as we have to figure out if this gym will be going for that static shift build or for that collector.
Shush has to be careful. Obviously knows Nunu is in the area, but Snepex is prioritizing this lane before the Nunu. The roll is coming out. Shush able to W and flash away. Kenji so low. And I think this kill should be secured by Fruity Carrot at some point. Has the E. Isn't going to flash E, though. Flash E, come on, come on. All right, okay. Kenji able to flash away, though. Snepex clipped by the E, rooted up and taking a lot of damage. Has to flash, but Shush there to secure first blood for the Nuclear Vikings.
Yeah, going to be able to pick up their first kill. Fantastic job there towards the top lane. As this really comes on the back of a great outplay from Shush. He actually walked slightly forward to make Snepex's ability miss, meaning he gets to survive, turn around for Fruity Carrots and that first blood. You can already see towards the top side as well, Nunu being the best jungler you could ever ask for, pushing this in for their top laner. As I'm expecting Nuclear Vikings to just let this bot lane struggle in this 2 versus 2 and constantly gank towards the top lane. Kennan's one of the champions up there, which is easiest to gank. You get that snowball, just go up there and W him. It's not really harder than that.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to watch for Fruity Carrot in this early game as well is this Scuttle Crab priority, right? I feel like this is something that Snepex maybe missed out on when looking for that gank topside. If Nunu's able to get the Scuttle Crab, able to get the acceleration from the movement speed acceleration from killing that Scuttle Crab in the middle of the river, he appears in the lane so much quicker, and that snowball is so much harder to dodge. Obviously, Snepex securing that bottom scuttle does secure safety towards that bottom lane for Paragon, but not getting that in the early top side definitely proved fatal, and it will prove fatal again if Fruity Carrot's able to get onto these first.
Yeah, Nunu being able to help with that kill already has that Barmy Cinders and Boots. Wave clear is going to be a lot easier in towards these jungle camps. Going to be able to get towards the top side as fast as possible. You can already see he went for the play top lane, went for a reset, and now is already going back towards the top lane, as there is a lot of contention towards the top lane. Both top lane very low. I'm expecting Fruity Carrots after this to maybe go look for a play up there again.
And I mean, I can see Not Sandwich moving up towards this top side as well. Looks like a lot of priority afforded towards this top half of the map for Nuclear Vikings, rolling the mid lane. Could find a Yone. Q3 already popped in, ult available though. Tima's not really going to be under any threat. We've already seen him on one of the Wind Brothers. Absolutely dominant, looking good this game, and Draken already started up for Paragon.
Yeah, and we're starting to see the complete opposite of last game, with Paragon accepting that they can't contest these Void Grubs because their team fighting isn't strong enough yet. So they're just going to leave that, get themselves the early Dragon. The only thing I'm concerned about are these Void Grubs going to give them a big enough lead like they did last game. We remember last game was finished 24, 25 minutes. Can Nuclear Vikings be the ones to do that? Of course, very far in towards the future. Only a 600 gold lead for now, so Void Grubs will be going over to them.
Yeah, and I mean, saying earlier on, I think it was actually last series, that this Void Grub priority is kind of reflective of what the meta was in Worlds, as Kenji could just get dove, yeah. I mean, Not Sandwich can move in, can stop this back. I mean, yeah, Kenji just has to commit to this back. Okay, never mind, chose not to. Nunu moving in, not actually even going to roll in, just going to wait for the wave to get under, and Fruity Carrot should start off. The tanking actually is going to be Not Sandwich who takes it first. Kenji gets a good stun onto 2, and Shush might be in danger. The Nunu ult comes out, the shield is there, but it's nowhere near enough. It's going to be a 1-for-1 in the end. A wave missed for the Kennen, but Not Sandwich is under threat. Snepex going to get pushed back, and Shush should be able to get the wave and get away to safety. Snepex can't really look for this 2v1, I don't think. A lot of damage coming out from Shush. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, a wave missed for Kenji. I think that is going to be a net positive play for Nuclear for now, but Brody in the bot lane, maybe it's not going to be a good last shot, is able to do so much damage. The wave might be able to finish off last, but the healing is there. The chin trap there at the supreme timing, and last will get finished off. Fruity Carrot finds that one for themselves.
Bomber, we had it in last game, we have it here, an explosion towards this bot lane, and we saw the 2 plays that happened, one towards the top lane to get this Kennen behind, which they are lucky to go 1-for-1 in, and same towards this bot side, having that Seraphine Ashe go for the dive, which makes sense, but with these swiftness boots from Jhin, it's a little harder to find these abilities onto him, and of course that slow, a lot less effective. So that's the reason Brody was able to survive and get themselves into a pretty comfortable, even situation. Nuclear Vikings only around about 1,000 gold up, and that is all on their jungler.
Ooh, and into the mid lane goes Fruity Carrot, trying to get a kill here onto Tima. Q3 will be there to get him to safety. And I mean, yeah, Brody absolutely putting on the Giga Chad boots down there in the bottom lane, popping off in that 1v2.
It actually helps you and me as well, because there were some times when you don't know when a fight's going to happen. You're always like, oh, is it going to be now? Is it going to be in a second? Nunu just tells you. He just presses W.
True. And Not Sandwich does as well. Getting a good knock up here onto the Yone, but Sack moving in. Fate Sealed not quite going to connect, and Alistar should just be able to walk this one out. Timatopper not looking nearly as threatening on the Yone as the Yasuo.
Yeah, it's really difficult because he has the boots completed. He did actually go for those attack speed boots. I was expecting maybe armor to come out as a good counteraction towards Tristana. That's something that a lot of people have been toying around about because Tristana in the early game usually has that high dominance. They will be looking towards this bot lane again.
Yeah, and it might prove fatal for Not Sandwich. Brody trying to get a little bit of damage done, but the Sejuani does not take any. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and eventually this cow should fall. The pig is on the run now, though. SnapX does get clipped by the W, and Not Shush should be here to finish off the Sejuani. It will be Brody walking away with the kill. It's Nunu into the top side, and Kennen not going to be able to even get a plate in exchange for the Nuclear Vikings win in that bottom side.
Yeah, you can even see towards the top lane. Fruity Carrot's having a lot of front-ended damage with the W, and of course the chomp on top of that. So with that teleport coming through, they don't lose anything.
A Chronos solo bolo. Where did that even come from? Nuclear Vikings looking like a completely different team here in game 2.
And this is because they picked early game. They finally can contest these plays. And the big thing as well is we have a new Tristana build. We've got the Collector, meaning the lethality early allows you to make these plays early into the game where you can't just tower dive. There's nothing you can do.
Insane gameplay coming out from Chronos, and across the board for Nuclear Vikings, they're kind of setting the pace here in this game. And in the last game, it was Paragon completely in the driver's seat. Obviously, slightly off the back of Fruity Carrot being able to gank, being able to be everywhere with this Nunu W. But, I mean, plays coming out from everyone. Fruity Carrot on the top side might be under threat. A good Q to heal up, and SnapX might just not be able to finish off the Nunu. The shield comes out from the ultimate, and Fruity Carrot will be able to scamper off. A little bit of an Indiana Jones moment for Fruity Carrot, and Paragon still not quite able to get one back.
Can't believe that he survives there. What a great utilization of that ultimate, plus the heal from the Q to get themselves out to safety. However, even though it gets them up to safety, Paragon will be able to pick up those Void Grubs, and first time this series, we aren't going to be having 6 Void Grubs. I get it, second game, but thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, Void Grubs going over towards Paragon, no major leaders towards bot lane.
Yeah, things are starting to shift. Paragon get the grubs. They look for a fight in the bottom lane. Last trying to get the damage down, but the barrier gets popped. The knockup comes through, and Last is now the one in danger. Brody trying to follow up. One more auto in range of the ult, and will be able to call the curtains. The stage will be set. Sack will be on the run. The 4th shot will not connect, and the Chronos and Fruity Carrot will not be able to dive this Seraphine for now. But the Dragon should be going the way of Nuclear Viking.
Yeah, Alistar ticking over towards level 6 finally is able to tank enough to make that play as they are going to get the Dragon on the back of this, even though their support dies in this game. 1 Dragon apiece. This game has been the closest we've seen so far, only 300 at 11 minutes. Is, if I recall to the last game, wasn't it like 4,000, 5,000 at this point?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot closer than that. I mean, you know, it's like 500-ish, so like, you know, it's only like 10% of that actually.
The only major lead you have is going to be the jungle of Fruity Carrot finding that lead, as they will be looking to not sandwich again.
I mean, this Alistar doesn't have ult, so it is a little bit squishier than normal, but with the Aftershock available, not really going to take that much damage.
I mean, Tim the Thopper doesn't have first sight completed himself, so wasn't really in any danger of trying to be killed. One thing that I have found very fascinating is how both of these junglers are just supports at this point. Look at their first items, brought those lockets. I don't get how we could build Locket and Darksil in the same build and make it look legitimate.
It actually is legitimate, is the thing.
And
like, this is the premier Nunu build. I promise you. I've been building Darksil on this champion since like 8 seasons ago.
Okay.
It's so good. It's so good. You assist in every fight. You never die.
Can we talk about how many Darksil stacks does he need at what point to say that this item was worth buying?
2, straight up. That's all you need. Looking for 2 right now, actually. Sack taking a lot of damage, getting rooted up. And the ult on top, that might be enough. Not Sandwich not able to keep Sack into the ultimate for Fruity Carrot, though, and so that kill will not go over. And in the top side, it looks like the mid laners have now taken over that lane. And it's going to be interesting to see how these lane swaps come out, like which objectives actually end up going over with Rift Herald spawning soon. I feel like Tim and Topper might fare better against the Aurora. Yeah,
we'll have a really good timing towards that Aurora, especially with the healing from the Serpent's Fang. So whenever he takes damage, can just heal it up on the waves you see there. The one thing that I've been questioning a bit is Nunu constantly play for the top lane, right? All during this early game. The big goal was let's make a play around there, but then later on as waves.
Bait seal available, Tim and Topper. Ooh, nearly.
Really close. Yeah, Dake
Kennan's moving in, though.
behind as well.
Yeah, Kenji might be able to find something. The Fate Seal doesn't quite connect. Shush! Taking so much damage. Pops the ultimate, flashes away from the Q. And Timitopper has Q3 available. Shush not gonna risk that one. Nunu moving in at supreme timing yet again. And in the bottom side, a good double knockup comes out from Not Sandwich. And Lasp gets taken down. Seraphine gets rooted up. And it will be a double kill going the way of a Chronos.
Yeah, what's happening in this game? Nunu's dancing in the top side. Bot lanes getting themselves a double kill with a good roam timer coming out from a Chronos. And the thing I was trying to mention before is Nuclear Vikings, they're winning out of fights, but they just seem so disjointed. Early on, played to get this cannon behind, tried to go for a gank into gank into gank, but then he goes towards the bot lane and then goes top lane, and then everything just seems a little scrambled. And that might be the reason this game has been a little bit closer, is when you have this where you're playing the game and it gets slightly dislodged. Really close game, and it gets slightly dislodged. You end up in this mid game where you don't really know how to push forward and finish off the game, except for these major objectives, like either a tower towards the mid lane or going for Dragon Soul.
Yeah, it does. It does prove to be a little bit more difficult for both these two teams in this game. But it is a gold lead nonetheless for Nuclear Vikings, which is looking really good. Snapx trying to change that though, Not Sandwich. Under threat, taking a lot of damage, has the ultimate popped, and this Alistar will not take damage, at least for a little bit. Trying to get out of dodge, but so many slowing and stunning and movement stopping abilities available to Paragon means that this Alistar will eventually get taken down. That's going to be a minute on this dragon spawn timer, so not really any neutral objectives for Paragon to claim, but at least they have a little bit of agency on the map now.
They could try and look for this bot lane tower if they want to. Of course, Ultimate available on the Sejuani to look for a tower dive, but it might just be a little bit too much with Nunu around the corner. We will just have to take a look as the gold lead. It's still in the favor of Nuclear Vikings. They will just give up. Will they?
I mean, Fruity Carrot definitely... I see what they were thinking here, right? Like, if you Nunu W, you do kill the backline minions and you knock up potentially the Ashe or Sack, and then you're able to ult and save the turret, but a little bit too risky. Don't want to potentially die. Snapx obviously still having that Glacial Prison and being in the area.
I think
the
it's just
Vikings
that
give over that
follow-up,
turret.
CC.
Ooh, shoosh.
TP.
TP coming in from Timitopper. Fate Sealed available to the Yone. The E comes out. Fate Sealed does not connect, and Shush is on the run. Might take enough damage to die, though. The snapback is just enough, and Timitopper ripping off the top laner's head.
Yone's been in a meta since he was birthed in towards this game. He just absolutely busted that champion, but putting so many members towards the top side, they will be able to get a few chunks towards mid.
Snapx able to find a Glacial Prison onto the backline. A good Seraphine ultimate over the top, and Sack does what Sack does best. It's going to be Tristana in the grave. Ashe looking for more. A good Nunu ultimate able to buy a little bit of time, and Snapx might get taken down, but Fruity Carrot on the run. Last slowing down everyone on the side of Nuclear Vikings. Eventually, one should fall. Not Sandwich going to be the one who goes. Yone getting the tier 1 turret top lane, and Paragon absolutely coming online here at 17 minutes.
Yeah, putting their mid laner towards the top side has allowed Kennen towards the bot lane to even get the tower themselves. Nuclear Vikings are getting round rugged in these team fights. And the big thing is Paragon, their team fighting is incredible. If they ever hear an Ashe arrow, Seraphine on top of that, Seraphine as well, and then maybe Kennen towards the sideline. So if they can't instantly burst out the Ashe or Seraphine, these team fights start looking really tricky as Alistar isn't tanky enough yet. Same with that Nunu to be able to soak up all that damage.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. And I wouldn't even really associate Tristana, Jhin for like burst damage champions, right? They are burst damage champions in essence, but it's really hard to, as a non-assassin champion, actually get into the backline and really assassinate somebody. Oh wow, Not Sandwich not really getting over the wall with that flash. Timitopper able to somehow kill a Chronos on the opposite side. I don't know how that actually managed to happen. But Paragon get the enemy mid laner, they get the dragon, and they're looking really, really strong moving forward.
And it was the thing that the analyst S was talking about is Nuclear Vikings need to find a lead early. And right now, they don't have a lead, and they're actually 2,000 gold behind Tristana in a decent matchup early on. You had the Aurora. Sure, difficult in towards the cannon, same towards the bot lane, but you have a Nunu that is really good at ganking early, and when Nunu has the kill instead of everybody else, you know something is going wrong in the game, and you can't really blame the Nunu if you accidentally get the kills, but Nuclear Vikings needed to have a bigger lead than what they have.
Yeah, and Snapx over the wall, trying to find the Glacial Prison, doesn't quite connect onto anybody, threading the needle with that one, but Not Sandwich just slowed to oblivion. Last slowly but surely should eat through this health bar, but will it be quick enough? Fruity Carrot comes in, finds the snowball, and it will be able to knock up the enemy ADC, but last not really taking any damage. Nunu ends up going down, gets a kill in the process. Snapx onto Not Sandwich. This Alistar should eventually fall, and Brody and Akronos just have to walk away. Paragon once again walk away with a man advantage from that fight. Shush under threat. Timatopper looking for something, but has to walk away as well. And this fight should fizzle out with Paragon once again winning out in the end.
But Drake, how illegal is it that Ash is able to walk in towards the enemy team, stand in front of their faces for 10 to 15 seconds free firing, and not die until the end of it? That is how well Paragon's team fighting comp is. They have Seraphine for the healing and shielded, Sejuani in the front line to do the tanking, and Nuclear Vikings, you have to gym with the static shield. Mid lane only has 1.5 items with that collector. AD carries need 2, maybe even 3 items to come online. So Nuclear Vikings are in a bit of a low state of how their team comp is working, so maybe they need to focus their playstyle on maybe finding flanks towards the side lanes, maybe picking up these outer towers, but even then they're in these type of situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a case of, oh, hold that thought. Akronos barely able to dodge away from that Fate Sealed, pops the ultimate to get the Yone off of his face, but Snapx and Sack are not moving from that area, and Akronos will eventually go down. It's just who will claim the kill. It's going to be Snapx who gets it in the end. And Paragon, I mean, as you were saying, just keep finding these beneficial team fights, right? Like, that doesn't really count as a team fight, and a lot of these have just been man advantaged for Paragon. They've pulled the trigger at the right time, and if they decide the fights, we've seen, they win them. Fruity Carrot, obviously, able to start these fights whenever he wants, but if it's not Nuclear Vikings pulling the trigger, Paragon have seemed to win every single time.
And it's coming down to how many times Nuclear Vikings been the ones to engage. We saw it in that last game. Behind the scenes, we were saying that Nuclear Vikings kind of just fell over and died. They didn't really have a final last stand that we wanted to see from them. And of course, they're not at that point in this game. They very much have a chance to win it, able to find a big team fight. But I want to see them to be the ones to engage, maybe find Nunu a pick on the side lane, because when's the last time you saw this team have a 5 versus 5 fight? For me personally, have they even had one this game?
I don't think so. And that's kind of what I was trying to highlight, is the fact that, like you mentioned, Shush, if he gets one of these supreme, like, I keep saying supreme, I don't know what's going on. If he gets one of these insane flanks and is able to get into the backline, is able to actually assassinate Last or Sack before the team fight actually takes off, it could prove really, really good for Nuclear Vikings, but they just haven't been able to find these creative TPs, these creative flanks, even a straight up 5v5, and because of that, it has just been Paragon kind of running the map in this mid game in the last 5 minutes, and it doesn't look like they're going to let up anytime soon.
And we can see the full power of the Vision as well, being able to just look for anyone on Nuclear Vikings.
Yeah, Not Sandwich, nearly dead. Gonna have to pop the ultimate. A good Seraphine ultimate yet again. Sack is just a monster on this champion. Last doing the damage, but not quite able to get the kill here onto Not Sandwich. A good Fate Sealed over the wall, and Timatopper is there to seal the fate of Nuclear Vikings. Paragon take 2, and they walk towards the big purple worm.
And that's on the tankiest member as well. They have enough to get through him. Because of that pick-off, they can look to start this Baron. Nuclear Vikings, I think you have to contest this, but towards the bot lane, Kennen.
I mean, does it even matter at this point? You tried so hard, but the Baron is going the way of Paragon. 6,000 HP, and I mean, the gold lead has ballooned to 4,000. They're taking their time with the Baron as well. And it shouldn't even be contested. Nunu obviously could have contested this if they had been able to move in, but Paragon doing really, really well to keep them at bay, and Nuclear Vikings need to find a way back into this one.
And the thing is, at the last of their fight, I was talking about how Kennen is caught out here, right? 4 members on top of him while the Baron was getting taken. They can't even finish off that kill. Flash was expended by him. If they got the kill, maybe they would have had a numbers advantage, taken this dragon, looked for a way to play around it. But because they don't get the kill, they lose this Baron for free. And most importantly, this is their dragon for Paragon. They can just walk in, gain themselves vision, and be in a comfortable situation. So Nuclear Vikings will be looking towards the top lane, see if they can have any counteraction, as 2 items are completed for Akronos and Brody. Yes, it's good. Yes, they will have a bit more damage, but how are you going to get through the front line of Snapx with 2 items with no armor pen?
Yeah, all right. Listen, Zapdos. I was asking for Hopium to huff last game. I have a bit of Hopium for now, but Not Sandwich under threat. Okay, never mind. I do have a little bit of Hopium to huff here for the side of Nuclear Vikings, despite the fact that Paragon have finally flipped this game on its head. there's two things that Nuclear Vikings have going for them, right? My one thing is that Fruity Carrot can start a fight whenever he wants, and Nunu can start rolling from mid lane and randomly start a team fight, get a double knockup, and just win a team fight instantly because of that. And the other thing, Akronos, what are you doing? I don't know if you win this 1v1, but Kenji actually taking a lot of damage. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I didn't know the damage numbers. I didn't respect your game, Akronos. Gets the 1v1 in the top side, gets the solo bolo, and buys a little bit more time for Paragon. But the other win condition I was going to say is that Shush can find these flanks, can absolutely delete the backline. It's just a case of getting this Aurora in the right place at the right time.
And what was the thing we always said Nuclear Vikings are best at? Team fighting, right? Maybe, well, that's the only way out of this, I have to say, is an incredible team fight after incredible team fight. They have it in them. We've seen it all season long. They came second place after clearly the best team already. They are deserving of the spot, so they really need to get it out now if they want to try and stay in this playoff contention. Because remember, Nuclear Vikings lose here, they are completely out of playoffs and they won't be able to go any further in the UKL. So a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and maybe that's why we're seeing them feel a little bit more difficult. Because for me personally, it feels like they're forcing this comp a little bit more. We used to see in the Smolder in the mid lane last game, but because that went so wrong, they're now in a position where they have gone for an early focus comp, which I really haven't seen them play.
Yeah, and obviously a little bit more comfortable as well, right? Like, okay, hold on. It's just going to be an engage onto Shush. Has to dash away, has to dodge the Fate Seal. Timitopper not quite able to get the damage done this time. And Shush will be able to live to see another day. The Baron still persisting, however. The tier 2 turret falling in that top side. In the bottom side, however, Akronos able to get this tier 1 with Fruity Carrot. And at some point, Kenji should eventually fall. Kennen with a good E away, but there you go. The Fate has been secured of Kenji. That is going to be a Kennen in the grave, but two tier 2 turrets traded. I don't know if that's a positive net win for Nuclear.
Definitely isn't going to be losing more overall in that game. Get that mid lane tower, get that top lane tower on top of it. They can even look for more if they want to.
Definitely could, and looks like Snapx will be able to get out of dodge. Sack and Timitopper need to be careful.
Just
are walking away. A good W comes out from Brody. A good ult from Sack to just buy a little bit of time. Timitopper doesn't have Fate sealed for now. Has the Q3 to get out of to buy a little bit of space, but the curtain gets called by Brody, and I think Timitopper is under quite a bit of threat. A good Alistar engaged to knock up Sack, and I don't know who wins this. It looks like Timitopper is trying to make it his. Finds the Fate Sealed onto the Alistar. Shush taking a lot of damage. Gonna get taken down. A double kill for Yone in a 2v3 situation. What can PRG not win?
I don't know at this point. Nuclear Vikings had such a close fight. They almost get themselves back into the game. Because if they kill Tim the Topper, clear that wave, you got an inhibitor almost in your bot lane. Everything was looking better. But Tim the Topper having a fantastic series, being dominant in this early game.
And it might just be even more domination coming towards Nuclear Vikings' face. Akronos gets taken down. Brody getting eaten up in the backline by Timitopper and Fruity Carrot. Gonna be quite a rotten carrot indeed. Gets stunned up and actually might not go down. But it's only a matter of time till the base of Nuclear Vikings falls. Paragon have 5 strong. They only have to fight against Fruity Carrot, not Sandwich and Shush. And I'm not sure how much safety that guarantees the Nuclear Vikings. Genji taking a lot of damage into the back line, but this Nunu really not too much of a threat. Alistar goes down, Aurora goes down, and it's just going to be Nunu and the Nexus left for the Nuclear Vikings here in the UKEL, and Paragon will advance towards the next stage of the lower bracket playoffs. Congratulations, and Nuclear Vikings, see you next season.
Nobody was expecting this at all, right? Everybody was saying 2-1 Nuclear Vikings, 2-0 Nuclear Vikings, but Paragon shutting all of them up. All doubters. There you go. Paragons have been able to get through. We are not sure who they'll be going against next. We'll be able to figure that out pretty soon. But a dominant victory, to say the least, for Paragon. Being able to play this different playstyle of very early game focused, and most importantly, since the regular season to now, I think they know how to finish games.
Yeah, it's looking a lot better for Paragon for sure. And now we can see that they also have the ability to come back in a game, right, to reestablish themselves. So looking really, really strong moving forward in this bracket for the playoffs. It's definitely a good look and great to see them advance. Nuclear Vikings, sad to see you go. I think that's going to be it from us here for this series. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with an analyst desk in just a few minutes.
No minutes. Desk now. Only
surprise!
The minutes in question, 0.
Okay, pretty explosive game. Paragon, easy 2-0. The team that I'd seen fumble slightly and drop the bag towards the end of the season. Not present today. The Nuclear Vikings struggled to get it together. So rest in peace, all of our predictions. Rory, thoughts on that pretty explosive game?
Yeah, I mean, Nuclear Vikings were having a good identity in the early game. Like, Fruity Carrot was able to get off a lot of those early game ganks. Unfortunately, after providing his laners, especially in the solo lanes, so much to eat off of, they still managed to not find the pressure expected from them. Either from some close calls, like Shush was almost solo killed.
Mm.
Sorry, Kenji was almost solo killed by Shush, but then Timotopper was able to TP in. And other situations where just no respect was really played to Paragon, and that was that signed their death warrant.
All right, Evie, was it really the sort of vibe that Nuclear Vikings were just taking it easy?
I mean, honestly, Nuclear Vikings, like we said, right, Fruity Carrot had a very good early game. This is exactly what you want out of your Nunu, and managed to accelerate the bulk of the lanes ahead of curve. Of course, very early game, it was immediately apparent that, okay, yeah, Jin Alistair are having a horrible time down here, but
Yeah.
for the most part, Tristana's having the run of things mid, Aurora's having the run of things top lane mostly, so Nunu could accelerate things here and there, and yeah, I mean, going into sort of your 13, 14-minute space, you're looking at it as, okay, Nuclear Vikings should be able to close this out. Timotopper had other plans.
Let's go back to that early game and that Tristana sort of running things in the mid. Evie, take this first replay away.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. So, Timotopper's having a good time, hitting the tower, yay, plates. However, we're getting to that point in the game where Akranos is sitting on a serrated Dirk now, and Tristana's damage early game, deceptively high right now. It's always been pretty good, but around this sort of level 6, level 7, level 8 mark, she starts to really come online. Now, Timmy goes for an aggressive trade in towards the wave. Unfortunately, well, it will be met with swift demise. Tristana's burst damage in this position is really impressive, and as soon as Yone commits that soul unbound forward, you give Tristana the opportunity to guarantee a fully charged explosive, charge, because she can always jump onto where you're forced to return to. She will reset her jump in the process, and there's really no way for Yone to avoid that fourth stack happening. And from here, you think, okay, well, Tristana should be accelerating out of control in the matchup, but for the most part, Yone's stem the bleeding pretty fast. It was a really good series overall from Timmer, and considering he was playing from behind this game, even more impressive.
Hop, skip, and boom in that instance. Rory, a second replay shows an engage around 16 minutes.
Yeah, so we're going to see one of the many arrows coming out from Lasps this game straight down the mid lane. I think there were about 4 in total. We see quite a short hop here coming out from the Tristana, which means she can just get piled on with all this stacking crowd control. Now, Snepex, caught in a bit of a hard place as Fruity Carrot gets the absolute 0 out. But you see Lasps is just free-firing for so long, and then not sandwiched. It happened about 4 times this game. Headbutting in a position where he cannot headbutt, signs his death warrant, and if you watch the replay, he's done the same play about 4 times. It hasn't worked once.
That's right. He's committing, and in a difficult situation.
It's not a play, but he's committing something. Yeah,
he's committing to the bit.
Absolutely. Someone's dying. Unfortunately, the Alistair normally involved not much in the way of the in and out and Snepex, but a beautiful, absolutely beautiful flank around there to nail the ultimate down. A huge performance from Paragon here tonight. They will proceed to the next round. Over on never mind. We have a third replay. I can't read. Evie, 22 minutes. This is a jungle fight.
This last one, I'll call this one the game breaker, right? Because at this point, Baron is alive, and the gold is still relatively even. But not sandwiched once again is being sandwiched, this time in his own jungle. And there's a lot of CC being drawn into the Alistair, but keep your eye on Timatopper as he's approaching this fight. Soul binds forward, flashes, instantly finds the backline. Not Sandwich is finished off as that ult is ended by now. And Brody ends up falling as well. Jin was just about surviving this fight. And what this opens up is you have Paragon are able to fall back. The Baron is alive. We've just ticked over 20 minutes. We're at about 21, 22 minutes by this point. And once again, we see an extremely early Baron from Paragon and, well, an extremely early signing of their right to play in the next round of playoffs.
Absolutely. We'll be up against the winner of Belfast Storm and the Venom Crest Serpents, who I haven't checked on for just a second, but are playing over on the UKEL2 as he not so surreptitiously opens it. Alex is looking after that one for us tonight, and I do
Correct
not
tonight.
have
Let's go.
do not have a game score, but Belfast Storm looking pretty strong, so I'm guessing they're
Oh,
ahead
no.
in game 2.
Yeah, it's glancing over Belfast Storm, up about 10,000 gold right now, 24 minutes in. Venom Crest are not having the best of times, so it's looking like a bit of a they think it's all over, it is now situation in the next minute or so.
Soul Point live and out on the map with Venom Crest stuck in their base. Venom Crest, great when behind and great when stuck into a corner. So we're not going to say goodnight for them just yet. Feel free to head on over to twitch.tv/the UKEL2 and check that out. Otherwise, friends from the desk, it's been a beautiful evening. Thank you very much for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
Good night.
Yeah, okay. Please head on over to our second channel and check that game out. Otherwise, we'll be back on Thursday with the next round of playoffs. The winner of these two series. We'll see you there. Good night.